Hello. I'm here to share a resurrection story. This is a special story in our family and brings us a lot of hope and joy. And so I wanted to share it with you all. It starts back a couple of years ago, and some of you know the story of our family. But back in summer of 2018, Daniel and I were pregnant with our first child, a daughter named Virginia Hope. We call her Ginny. And we were very, very excited and had everything ready to go for her. And when I was 8 months pregnant, we went to an ultrasound and there was no heartbeat. And she had passed away in the womb and was stillborn that next day. And we were just completely heartbroken. Many of you were there for us during that time, and we appreciate y'all so much. It just felt like our lives were crashing in on us. It felt like we didn't have hope. We couldn't really see the future. And it was a very, very difficult time. And we just began the long journey of grieving and mourning our daughter. And it was 8 months later when we decided that it was time to try to give Jenny a little sibling. So in November of 2019, we got pregnant again, and we were, excited again, but it was completely different feeling. We didn't know what happened exactly to Ginny that caused her death, and so we were always kind of aware that the same thing could happen again, or something different. We were just aware that that loss happens, and so there was a lot of fear, and we had a lot of anxiety. Just every single appointment, every single ultrasound would just bring on so much fear and worry. And so we wanted to do everything we could to make sure that everything in this pregnancy went smoothly. And we actually decided to get genetic screening done. And as part of that, we decided that we wanted to find out if we were having a boy or a girl. And it was really important to us to find that out because we wanted to get to know this baby as much as possible, because we didn't really know how long we have with them. So we wanted to just get to know them and show as much love as possible. So we found out, or we decided to do genetic screening, and so we did that in January of 2020. Got my blood drawn and met with a counselor and everything. And right after that, Daniel had a business trip in San Diego, California. So he went for that business trip, and then I joined him after his conference, and my sister joined us as well, just for some vacation. And this was pre-COVID. And it was just a really fun time where we ate a lot of tacos, we went beach hopping, and I had been to San Diego before, and like 13 years before, I had remembered visiting this really, really beautiful beach. And there were black and blue, like smooth stones along the sand, and I remembered it so vividly, and I knew I wanted to go back there. And I knew I wanted to show Daniel. And the problem was that I didn't remember the name of the beach or where it was. So we were kind of at a loss there. I tried Googling it. We asked every Uber driver, and no one could tell us where this beach was or even what it was. So I'd kind of given up on the hope of finding that beach, but it's okay. We were in San Diego. We had a lot of fun. And but the whole kind of time we were there, in the back of my mind, I was a little bit nervous because I was hoping for the call from the genetic counselor to give us the screening results. And so It was the second to last day we were there. It was a Friday afternoon. I remember it being like 3 o'clock in San Diego, so I knew it was past 5 here in North Carolina, and so I knew it probably was not likely past 5 on a Friday to get a call from the genetic counselor, and I knew we probably wouldn't be hearing until the following week, so I'd kind of given up on that and put it out of my mind. So we had a whole agenda of things to do, and the next one we were really excited about. We were going to go to Torrey Pines State Park for a hike. And as we were pulling in to the parking lot, we passed by the beach, and I look out the window and I recognized the beach, and it's the one that I had remembered from years ago, and it was that beach I was looking for, and I saw the stones and I got so excited. And I told Daniel, I'm like, this is it. This is the beach that I was telling you about. This is the beach we have to go to. And so we parked, and we were about to run out there to see the beach. But before we could get out of the car, my phone rang, and it was the genetic counselor. And she told us some really good news about the screening, and she told us that we were having a boy. And it was just such a special moment, and we were so excited. And we ran out to the beach afterwards, and we collected the bluest stones that we could find on the beach, and we spelled out the word boy in the sand and took a picture next to it as a way to kind of announce that we were having a boy. And it was such just like a perfect serendipitous moment of finding that beach that we were looking for and getting that call and finding out we were having a boy. It just felt so perfect. And I remember standing on the beach and watching the waves come in and watching the sky and just feeling like God was telling us that we would have joy again, and that we would not stay in this season of grief and fear, that we would have joy. And he promised us joy. And that was such a resurrection moment in and of itself, because that was the most hope that I had had ever since Jenny died, and I started to kind of believe that we might bring this baby home, but it was still really hard to believe that, just because of everything we had been through and all of the fear and all of the grief. It was still hard to believe, but we clung to that promise, so much so we wanted to be reminded of that day that we decided to decorate our new baby's nursery with a beach theme, and right by the changing tables a picture of Torrey Pines State Park beach, and with those black and blue stones, just to remind us of that promise that God made us, that we would have joy and there would be a season of joy after a season of pain. And a few months later, in July of 2020, we welcomed Chester Thomas Jones. We call him Chet, baby Chet. And when he was born, when we first heard him cry, that joy that God promised us just like rushed into our hearts. And he fulfilled his promise in that moment. And it was so wonderful. It felt like a miracle. It was a miracle. And even just like weeks afterwards, I would be holding Chet and just like sobbing with just tears of joy and gratitude and praise and hormones. And it was just such a happy time, such a joyful time. And it was the happiest I've ever been. And it was 2020 in a pandemic with a newborn, so exhausting, but it was so joyful. And God fulfilled his promise. And it was just so special for our family. And after a period of death and grief, he brought us a period of life and joy and resurrection. And so a couple weeks ago, on February 26th, was our daughter Jenny's second heavenly birthday. And we decided we wanted to honor her and celebrate her life. And so we went to the beach and we took Chet, not to San Diego, but we went to Oak Island, and it was very beautiful. And it was a wonderful time where Daniel and I were able to just reflect on all of the resurrection moments that came from Jenny's life, and all the wonderful things that she's brought us, and all the love that she's brought us, and how grateful we are for her and her life, and how grateful we are for Chet. And I stood out on the beach and I looked at the waves and I looked at the sky, and I just felt that joy that God had promised us. And this time, Chet was on my hip and he was there watching the ocean with me. And it just felt like such a full circle resurrection moment. And so that was just a special time for our family.